So this will be the reading for the sign of Capricorn for the month of August 2026. The deck that I'm using is the Rider-Waite deck by Pamela Coleman Smith and Arthur Waite. And what I've done first off is I've pulled an overall energy card for the month of August. So this is the energy card. This is what you're going to need to focus on in the whole month, okay? And then as each week unfolds, it will give you more details as to what that entails. So your energy card is the moon card, and it's reversed. Now the moon card reverse talks about you finding out the truth, an illusion about a person, a place, a thing, a situation. Your illusions are lifting. You're taking off those rose-colored glasses. Now it's talking about relationship issues. That could be relationships with yourself and friends or family members. It could be relationships in a romantic dynamic. It could be relationships in a romantic dynamic for the people around you, for family, for friends, okay? But you're getting involved in realistic, down-to-earth, practical matters. And you might even be feeling a little bit hypersensitive at this point in time. It talks about a return to clarity, and you're finding the truth out about something, a situation, or perhaps even a perception that you had of something that may have been wrong. It also talks about something in the early stage of development, whether that is a positive or a negative, okay? And a hope for outcome may not happen, okay? So if you're hoping for, I mean, you might have taken a pregnancy test and found out that, ooh, you might be pregnant. And maybe you're hoping for that, and maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe it's just a fluke, or maybe it's the opposite, where, you know, there could be a lot of things that are taking place, and you assumed that they would happen, and they're not going to happen right away. So this is what I'm seeing at this point in time. But be cautious. So if you do not want to become a first-time parent, or maybe this is your third, fourth, fifth child, okay? If you don't want those repercussions, then be very careful with contraceptive. It also talks about you coming to terms with reality, how life really is in your neck of the woods. So be aware of that. And trust your instincts. And indeed, I mean, this could simply be, I mean, if you're a female, this could be, maybe you're starting your menses in this month. You're starting your menses in that first week. Your cycle is changing, okay? Something like that. If you're a male, this might have something to do with your health. Maybe your prostate. Maybe you're having issues with urination. Maybe you're having issues with diet or heart problems, or maybe, you know, even spots that you've noticed on your body. So it's saying to be very aware in that month of August to look at your body carefully, okay? And note any changes in your body, any dynamics, anything that's taking place that doesn't seem right to you. Go and get it checked out immediately. It doesn't say it's a bad thing. It just says that there is something that you need to focus on in the month of August, whether it's you, whether it's someone you care about, could even be a romantic partner, okay? So be aware of these things. So we're going to move into the first week of August, and we're in the first couple of days, and the card that you have is the Tower, and it's straight up. So it talks about being mindful of potential accidents, watchful of electrical shock. Be very careful working around water. Don't plug in to outlets that look like they're frayed. If the cord is frayed, don't touch it, get away from it. It could also stand for, I mean, there might be an electrical storm, and maybe you've got your hands in water, okay? I'd be thinking twice about that. So staying away from windows and staying away from any types of water if there is some type of storm, okay? So be aware of that. Now it talks about you changing your way of seeing things. Things are going to take a very dramatic turn in your life, okay? And you're going to have possibly a breakthrough of ideas, but there is building tensions, and there might even be some disruptions. You might be cut loose from a situation, a job, a circumstance, a relationship, okay? And there's going to be an unexpected change that is going to bring about a transformation in your life. You could be having some bad dreams. Maybe you're dealing with depression or arguments with a group of friends, okay? Or a romantic partner. Now it does talk about an overthrow of a government, and we're in the first week of August. So natural causes, social causes, human causes, riots, there is going to be a disruption of your life in some way, Getting involved in protests and things like that, you need to be very wary, because some people they kind of overstep their bounds. Okay, so someone might get basically in your face, right? And there might be quarrels. So maybe you're going to be arguing with a group of friends or a friend. There's going to be a loss of a friendship because you disagree with something um, that they're saying, right? So there's so many different ideologies now that maybe you and a friend aren't seeing to eye on them. Okay. Now, it could also be a family quarrel where members of a family dynamic are arguing. You don't agree with something that a family member said, did, or believes, okay? Now, there could be a disappointment in school, could be a disappointment in family issues. An accident, an illness, a loss of some sort is going to bring about drastic change. So be aware of these things. And that's in the first week. So what I'm seeing here as we move into the middle part of that first week, you've got the Two of Wands straight up, and it talks about you having to make a choice. Two choices, two invitations, two projects, maybe even going to two courses of study, okay? Two projects, two jobs, two homes, two ways of living. I mean, maybe you live in the city and you want to move to the country, and you're going to have to make a choice between one or the other. Now, if you move to the country, there might be a commute where you're going to have to commute to work or commute to school or whatever it is that you're getting involved in, okay? So you're going to have to make a decision, and you have the desire to go with something that is more familial. Or familiar. So possibly going to school or working even at the same time, where you're doing two things at the same time. You're going to school, you have a part-time job, or you're working and you're going to school part-time, okay? Something like that. But it talks about having to divide your time between two jobs, two families, two friends, maybe even two kids. You're going to have to modify your plans to do with a spouse, a partner, a romantic partner, a work partner, okay, a family member. Maybe a family member is sick and you're having to modify your plans in order to help them, right? Now, it does say that within a relationship, both people have to be individual as well as part of a group. You have to contribute in some way your energies to the group dynamic, okay? And that could be in a family. Now, it talks about prosperity and power, money, and, using that money to your advantage, but don't misuse it. Treat everyone equally. I mean, you might have won the lottery. Maybe you got a big gift of cash from someone. It does say you need to treat everyone equally. If you're going to help one person out in the family, then help another person out in the family, okay? Do everything equally. Equally. Talks about cooperation. It could even be, if someone's sick and they usually take care of all the chores or all the bills or, picking up the mail, maybe you're going to have to like get off your butt and do those things for that individual, right? To take part of the responsibility and cooperate in some way. It also talks about seeking help from influential people, maybe even getting feedback on an idea that you have, a job contact. Maybe you're looking for work and this person's going to give you a heads up on a job. But it does talk about an exciting job opportunity, and it also talks about rewarding interactions at that job. So that's a good thing. We're going to move into the last 2 days of that first week, because what I see there, I did see that there might be an accident. There might be an electrical accident of some sort. It could be in a car, an electrical, uh, what would you call it, like where the electric car doors are not unlocking or they're not locking, okay, something like that. It could be to do with lighting in a car, okay? It could be one of those electric cars. Maybe you bought one of those electric cars and there's problems with it, and there might be a glitch and it might catch fire on the side of the road, and I've seen that happen a lot. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. But it also talks about justice. And it talks about you having to make lifestyle adjustments, finding the right balance between your needs and the needs of other people. It could have to do with work or social life, recreation, and there is going to be an elimination of outworn forms of education. So maybe you're choosing to take an online program instead of going to a school program, okay? Maybe you're choosing to do it online due to the changes in the ideologies in the school system. Now, it talks about you trying to divide something very fairly, or someone in your life trying to divide something very fairly. And that could simply be punishment. Could be punishment, could be awards, could be praise, even gaining accolades from a job. the boss, the employer has to make sure that the right person is getting those accolades and those praise and that pat on the back. And you might have to share that acknowledgement with another person in your life or in your job. So it does talk about a balanced point of view. It talks about possibly a judge or other legal entity that is going to make a balanced decision. Also, having to pull away from a situation in order to make that balanced choice. Okay, so I'm kind of seeing here that there might be, I mean, you could be in a relationship where the relationship has broken and there is possibly joint custody of a child, okay, joint custody of an animal, joint custody of whatever it may be. And trying to make that decision where you share your time equally between both parents, custodial and other, it can be a bit of a drain on a child. So this might be where you're having to go to a court system. And I mean, maybe you've just got out of a relationship and you're having to go to a court system in order to gain some custody arrangements or child support arrangements. So that's what I'm seeing here. That's what I'm seeing here. There's going to be a few changes that are coming into place in that first week. Maybe maybe there was someone that was paying child support and they lost their job or they had a car accident and they're not able to work, okay, and that's creating issues for yourself if you are the custodial parent. Now, it's not necessarily circling around divorce and breakup of a relationship, but that's just simply a way that I can explain what's happening. It could simply be that there are two people that are paying money toward a course, okay, a school program, getting involved in an extra program, and you're having to make a decision. Do I have the funds for that? Am I able to accommodate that into the family budget? So indeed, there's going to be a little bit of give and take here, and you might be part of the solution. You also might be part of the problem. Okay, so we are going to move into the second week. First off, I'm going to say I don't think I did the last card in this first week. So the Justice card, straight up, it talks about winning. Okay, so if you do have to go to court to fight a battle for some sort to get some type of justice, you will win it. Okay, things will be rectified for sure. And it talks about you being looked on favorably by authorities. Someone might have blamed you for something that you didn't do. Okay, and so you took it to court and you won. Simple as that. But it does talk about a lifestyle adjustment. It talks about fact finding out the truth about something. And it's going to look good on you. But it also talks about a need for education and being accepted into a course of study. So maybe you're going to be accepted for a loan or a partnership, but it does say that you are going to win this court case, whatever the court case may be. Okay, so we're moving into the second week, and in that second week, the Ace of Cups is reversed, and that talks about mood swings, mixed emotions, holding back your feelings. Now, I don't know, Capricorn, but everything is pointing to the fact that whether you're male, female, or other, okay, you might be getting a pregnancy scare or a close call of sort, okay? So it does talk about the potential to get pregnant is taking place, okay? It talks about you running out of emotional energy, mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, okay? You're running out of energy. You're just running out of energy. And physically, you're not doing as well as you should expect, okay? It does say to reframe your outlook. Now, someone is finding it hard to be openly affectionate with you because they don't agree with something that you have gotten involved in. And it could simply be that you found yourself a male, female, maybe you're having your first child, and the individual who's partnering with you is confused. They're not prepared for it. They weren't ready for it. They didn't want it, okay? And so there is problems in a relationship. Now, you can help a relationship by being more nurturing, more caring, more understanding. But if it's a situation where you're not ready for parenthood, okay, you possibly need to go seek attention in that matter. But it does talk about a mutual care and trust and having to explain how you feel and not being shy of speaking your truth, okay? It does say that someone might give you a gift or they might help you out in some way. So if you find yourself on the bad end of the stick and you're having problems with gaining resources that you need or financial help that you need, or even finding a way to speak one-on-one to another person where you want to describe or your feelings and what you're going through at this point in time, okay? Maybe you're going to a family counselor. Simple as that. Maybe you and you might be a child of a relationship that is broken up, and maybe you're going to a family counselor. You might be a parental figure in a relationship that is broke up, and maybe you are going with a child as a team to a counselor, a family counselor, okay? Maybe you're trying to better your relationship with a child in your life. Now, what I'm seeing here as we move into the middle 2 days of that second week is the Eight of Cups, and the Eight of Cups is straight up. Now, when that comes up for me, it stands for a female child, okay? It's a female child, someone who's very sensitive, very caring, very nurturing, and they cry at a drop of a hat, okay? Now, it does say that this individual knows how to deal with people issues, know how to deal with relationship issues, okay? They know what or who to connect with. And it does talk at this point in time that through your relationship with this individual, you're feeling in control of your life, okay? Now, it does talk about possibly shared custody situations, and that could be with a child. You could be the child, and I don't read for children, so it would have to be anyone over the age of 12. So if you're a child over the age of 12 and you're hearing this or hearing it from a third party, this could possibly be you. If you're a child, you know, of legal age, but you're still their child, like their offspring, okay? Maybe you're having to deal with a parental figure, and so you're trying to build a relationship with them, okay? And to feel more comfortable in that relationship, to be able to speak your truth to a co-parent or to a parent, okay? So it does talk about second marriages. So maybe you're getting married, maybe you found out that you're pregnant and you're getting married, or it's your first child if you're a male and you're popping the question because you want your child to have a last name, okay? So it does talk about that, but it could be someone that you care about that is getting married or has found themselves having a child, and possibly they're tying the knot because of it. But it does talk about combined families. Someone who already has a child is now marrying someone who already has a child. So it's like a combined family. It could also stand for adult children returning home to live. So it could be a water sign female, Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio, who is returning home to live, okay? And it does say that, of course, Capricorn, you're very practical. So you are going to handle it very responsibly and very maturely, okay? And it actually says that you're looking forward to it. So when it was talking about someone that finds out that they're pregnant, it could simply be that you're finding out that a child of yours, an adult child of yours, is coming home to live, and that's where that bonding is going to take place again, okay? That umbilical cord is never truly cut, because when a child or an offspring of yours needs help, whether it's a family member or whether it's an actual child, okay, and they need help, you have a tendency to reach out to help them, okay? So be aware of that. Now, there is a nurturing energy. There is a mother energy here. You have the Empress card straight up, and that is a mother or a female nurturer, a grandmother, an aunt. So it could be an aunt, it could be a grandmother. Maybe a grandmother is moving in for health reasons. Maybe an aunt is moving in for health reasons. Maybe an older sister or I said grandmother, an older sister, a cousin, a female cousin, a mentor, someone that you know that you have a close connection. Could even be a friend that has found themselves, you know, holding the bag, so to speak. They found themselves, you know, becoming a first-time parent, and they don't know what to do. They're confused, right? And so you're helping them out. You're helping them glean information. You're helping them find an apartment. You're helping them move. Those type of energies. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're moving into your abode. It could mean that this individual is moving to your area or coming back to your neighborhood, okay? But it's someone that you know and someone that you care about, someone who has been there previously. Now, it also talks about you using the friendships, the resources, the practical aspect, okay, to help and heal other people and to aid and comfort other people. Now, it does say that you are going to assume a leadership role and you're going to work through any issues that you have with this individual and you're going to let them go, okay? So that's not a bad thing. So that second week is all about helping someone else out. Yeah. So we're going to move into the third week. And in that third week, the first card you have is a Ten of Cups and it's reversed. Now that talks about needing to open up to a wider view of life, okay? Somehow, Capricorn, I don't know how, but you're closed off to different views, different lives, attitude, and you're kind of stuck in your ways. You don't want to hear any different ideologies, okay? It also talks about private family sorrows. And there is going to be some type of dysfunction in a family life. Now, it could be in a dynamic in a relationship with you and someone in your family, a child, a friend, a mentor. I mean, it's someone who's very, very closely tied to you. It could even be a cousin, right? It could be a best friend forever type of thing. And you're having to deal with a dysfunction in that relationship because you don't necessarily agree with the things that they're planning on doing. It could even be a sibling. Now, people around you, they're kind and they're kind and caring and loving and very sensitive and willing to listen to you. But you know what? They mightn't be a very good spiritual match for you. Okay, they don't believe in the same spiritual entity that you do. Now, you might need to open your heart up to someone who's struggling with health or maybe even recouping from illness caused by stress, overwork, okay? So it does talk about negative behavior patterns. They need to end, and there needs to be a new coping skills, essentially, that need to be learned. Yeah, so it does talk about someone dealing with emotional issues, physical issues, overwork and underpaid and struggling. Simple as that. And you're going to help them out in some way emotionally, okay? So we're going to move into the next 2 days, and you have the Page of Wands, the middle part of that third week. So you're going to get a communication, a phone call, an email, maybe even a text message from a fire sign. Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius. Now, it could be someone who is family orientated, or it might even be a family members of yours. It is a male energy, so it would be a father, a son, um, a brother, an uncle, okay, a cousin, but it is a male energy, and it's a fire sign. Someone who's really impulsive, very quick, really creative, very alert, and extremely inquisitive, okay? And it's someone who likes to dramatize things, yeah. They might be starting a new job, or they've got a new idea, or they're trying to hang on to their money, and they're wondering if, you'd be willing to, to help them in some way, okay? Maybe they're asking you for a loan. Maybe they're asking you to kind of cut back expenses if it's a romantic partner. They might be saying, okay, you know what, I lost hours at work, so can you cut down on the spending at home, sort of thing, right? So it does talk about a new relationship with a water sign, okay, from a circle of friends. And this could be a communication coming from a fire sign individual telling you that they have started a new relationship, romantic relationship. Now, it does say that this individual is going to tell you that it's way too early for a commitment, but that's the direction that they're headed. Now, I don't know why that would be of interest to you. It could be a family member, a brother, a father. Maybe your father and your mother are not together, and maybe your father has met another relationship, and they're describing that to you, telling you that, okay? Now, it also talks about asking for a reference. Someone might be asking you for a reference. Yeah. a reference. So, looking for loyalty of friends or coworkers or family. But it could also be you're asking someone to give you a reference, to give you a reference for a job that you're planning on applying for, okay? It also talks about possibly you meeting the love of your life. You're meeting this new person, this fire sign individual, and you're thinking, wow, you're a hottie, right? So it could also stand for you being offered a job from a fire sign individual. And it also talks about you being accepted for some type of application that you put out. So, all in all, all's good that ends well, right? Okay, so the next card that you have is the Page of Pentacles, and that stands for an earth sign um, person, and that would be a male earth sign. So that would be Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo, which, of course, Capricorn, you are an earth sign. So it could be you if you're of the male persuasion. Now, what I'm seeing here is that someone is being offered a job or a course of study or applying for a course of study, and that could be a sibling or a family member where they are choosing to do a certain particular course, and they might, like I said, they might be asking you for a reference, okay? That type of stuff. Now, it talks about having to be very cautious and practical and very productive, okay? This individual that you're going to be relating to in that third week, they're an earth sign, and earth signs are very practical but very productive. When they say they're going to do something, they do it, and they do it lickety split. They're very serious minded, and they get shit done. Yeah. And it's someone who took on a responsibility at an early age. So is this you, or is this someone in your life? Is this a friend, a relative? It could even be, well, I wouldn't say it would be a family, like a mother or a father, because it's too young, but it could be a cousin. um, it could be someone who is becoming a mentor to you, someone who's teaching you something. So it's a new skill, and that's where the young start comes through. Okay, young start. What would you call that? A young start. It's like a beginning stage of a course, right? So that's what I'm seeing here. It does talk about a message with an offer of a new job, an opportunity. I mean, it could be as simple as, dog walking or babysitting or, delivering papers or construction work or, you know, um, yard cleaning, okay? Those type of things. It's a simple job. It's a new business, a new endeavor. So it might be someone who's starting a business, who's an earth sign, starting a business that has to do with something like that. A daycare center, a yard cleaning opportunity, okay, something like that. But it is going to be a transmission of practical information or notice of money coming to you for some type of job that you had done previous or that someone has offered you. Now, it does say, Capricorn, that you are preoccupied with your health. Yeah. And exercising and diet. You believe in herbalism. It even talks about vitamin therapy. It talks about education, possibly in that. Maybe you want to become a doctor, a nurse, a health practitioner, a holistic practitioner, okay? So it does talk about taking some type of job training in that field. So that's a good thing. And maybe you applied for a course of study, and this phone call is coming back with a message that, yes, you were accepted, we're offering you the job, and this is how much money you're going to make, because money is involved. Okay, so we're in the last week. And the first card you have in the last week is an air element sign. It's a Page of Swords straight up. And it's someone who's really quiet. They're all in their head, okay? They're very bright, very intelligent, very curious. So, but it might be someone who's a little bit immature and childish, okay? But it's someone who's very changeable, and they want to try out new things, new ideologies, new values, and they like to shock the hell out of people. So, if they're given the choice between something normalized and something far out there, they'll choose the far out there. But it's because they're looking for attention. They're looking for someone to say, "Oh, that's interesting. Let's talk," right? Okay, so now this is also someone who has a bit of a temper, right? And they push their limits. They want to be noticed. They want to feel powerful in their own right, and they want to feel important. Yeah. So you might receive a letter, an email, information from someone, possibly this air sign individual. Now, it might be gossip, it could even be practical information, scientific information, political information, or some type of legality. Maybe they are telling you about some legal issue that they're dealing with in their life, okay? Now, it does talk about warning. There's a warning here as you're moving into the last week, and it's also talking about some type of addiction. And it could be a drug addiction, it could be a sexual addiction, it could be gambling. It's anything that is pulling this air sign individual away from their path, okay, away from their life path. And you're having to deal with it. You're finding out this information, they're deciding to trust you with it. And when someone trusts you with information like that, it's not that you're not allowed to speak it. It's that you're expected to kind of be that listening ear and to be guidance to them in some way, okay? So it does say, it also talks about an air sign individual who might be receiving critical comments from a teacher, a parent, or an employer, okay? And so they want someone to talk to. They want someone to talk to, and they've chosen you. They've chosen you because you're their listening ear, you're their support system. So, be very careful what you agree to. Okay, be careful what you agree to. And if you agree to be somebody's listening ear, the most important thing isn't that you keep it to yourself. And that is part of being a friend, right? Or even a relative. This could be a family member, a friend, could be a family member, could be a sibling, could even be a parental figure. But if they're telling you of a problem that they have and they're asking you not to tell anybody, it might be worth your while to say to them, I think you should tell. I think you should get help, and you need to work on this before it destroys your life. And then, if you are able, help them find the resources that they need in order to clear this matter up, because their life is worth it. So we are now at the addiction stage. You're in the middle of that last week, and it is talking about someone, possibly an air sign individual, who is in denial of a problematic behavior that they have. And they're slowly becoming aware, and possibly thanks to your input, okay? And they're starting to break free of an addiction. But there are hidden resentments. They feel that it's someone else's fault that they have this addiction because that person encouraged them. Now, I want you to be very careful, Capricorn. Follow your common sense, okay? If something doesn't feel right, if you feel on edge around any individual in the last week of August, get the hell away from them and go seek protection, okay? If you're walking down the street and someone's walking toward you and they're doing something pretty outlandish, maybe you should kind of sneak into a store somewhere and say, you know what, I'm a little scared. This individual is doing this or that, and could you call the police for me, okay? Something like that. But follow common sense. Even in a storm, if you get a warning on your phone that there is a tornado in your mobile area, seek shelter immediately. Okay. It could also talk about seeking safety in flooding or in an accident, even in explosions. It does talk about watchful awareness. Be very, very careful. You're working around a barbecue and the barbecue's got a leak in it, it could blow, right? So be careful what equipment you use. Be careful walking across the street. If you see a car that's driving erratically, don't be crossing the street until that car's gone by. Be aware of that. If you feel like you're being followed, if you see the same car at the same spot when you were there before and they seem to be following you, seek safety. Go find a phone and call 911, okay? Don't leave anything undone in your life. Tire maintenance, car maintenance, running out of gas, anything like that. Be so vigilant in that last week of August, especially when it has to do with a car. Do not overlook anything. It does talk about you feeling mentally overwhelmed. There's a lot of stress in your life and you're feeling a compulsion to do things you normally wouldn't do. Now, Capricorn, I don't know, do you have a gambling addiction? Do you have a sexual temptation? Are you, are you kind of like stepping out of your means here? And it says that your self esteem is suffering for some reason. Is there something that took place in your life, perhaps a sexual temptation that was acted on that possibly was not your temptation, and maybe you are a victim of something? Okay, it does talk about social evil, it talks about danger, war, famine, poverty, addictions. So be aware of those things and how they will affect you in that last week. And if you're hanging out with a crowd that does drugs or alcohol, that is a danger in itself, especially if you are dealing with other stressors in your life, okay? So be aware of that. If you're out at a party, if you're at a dance and someone offers you a drink, you don't take a drink that you haven't opened yourself, okay? If they're doing drugs and alcohol, you do not get involved in that, because this last week is a dangerous week, okay? This is a dangerous couple of days, especially when it comes to addictions with drugs and alcohol. And it could be gambling, sexual addictions, learned helplessness, anything like that, okay? So that last week, you need to be very, very aware. And if there is an air sign in your life that you care about, and they're telling you about something that took place with them, something that happened to them while they were under the influence, maybe you need to seek counsel for them and get them help. Maybe you need to tell someone. This isn't a time to keep quiet. This is a time to speak the truth and let justice reign, okay? So we are at the last 2 days of that last week. And Capricorn, I'm telling you, you have gone through hell and high water. You and an air sign individual in your life have been dealing with a lot of issues, okay? Whether it's a friend, a family member, a sibling, a spouse, whatever it may be, okay? So that last card that you have is a Seven of Cups, and it is reversed. So it does talk about a narrowing of your options, okay? You have to look at things realistically. Realistically. The truth is the truth. You need to seek and find the truth. And once the truth is found, you need to speak it. Do not suppress your desires to cater to other people's needs, okay? Don't do it. Now, it does say that you're going to change your mind about people in your life. You're going to change your mind about people that possibly you thought were your friends or that you could trust, okay? You might even change your direction in life. You might decide that you don't want to be a firefighter. You don't want to be a police officer. You don't want to be a nurse, whatever your sex may be, okay? Maybe you're changing your mind about your career. Maybe you're changing your mind about the people in your life, the friendships that you have. And illusions about those people that you had, those rose-colored glasses are coming off pretty quick. You're finding out the truth about someone, possibly about their addiction, possibly about something that happened to them while they were under the influence, okay? And you know what? You're helping them, and not only that, you are going to find a way to nurture your own dreams, okay? And you're going to stand firm in those dreams, and you are going to be very successful, Capricorn. You just have to make it over this little hump. So I shall see you in the month of September. Take care, my friends. Stay safe, and always speak your truth. Namaste.